united with Christ. Meet local churches with open doors, serving throughout the Border Valley community and sharing the truth and hope of God's love and salvation. A presentation of Live Christian Broadcasting Television. And now, united with Christ.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Messianic Rabbi Elliot Haas, and I am the minister of Kol HaRuach, which means Voice of the Spirit, Messianic Congregation, or Messianic Fellowship, really. So right now, we're going to start off with Joshua Bridges. He's going to blow the shofar. Okay, now, I'll explain this as we go along, why this is important. Okay, so go ahead, Josh. Thanks, Josh. Bye-bye. Now, I'm here today to share with you what today is about, and especially as believers, what's important about today. Today, as we're recording this, it probably will not be shown right away. But on August, this is August 25th, okay? And today begins the month of Elul. Now, Elul is the first letters of the Hebrew words Ani ledodi vidodi li, which means I am my beloved and my beloved is mine. You could say it's a wedding call. It comes out of the Song of Solomon, and it's interesting that we're recording today because this is again the first day of this month of Elul. And why is it important? Okay, it's important for all believers. Okay, why is it important? That's what we're going to talk about a little bit. Okay. I know we're going to be talking about the festivals, the coming appointed festivals of the Lord. Okay, and I say of the Lord because, yeah, they're Jewish festivals. The Jews observe them, but they are God's appointed times. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, now, in the Torah, in Leviticus 23, it talks about these appointed times where God gave them. Actually, you know what? Let's go back to the creation of the earth. He said when he created the sun, the moon, and the stars, he created them for signs, for seasons, for days, and for years. Well, the word for signs would be a word that has to do with just like things that are seen in the heavens. You could call them like pictures. You could call them, signs that appear in the heavens. And for festivals, it's actually in the Hebrew, moadim, okay? The appointed times. But they weren't given yet. They weren't given until a couple chapters later in Leviticus 23, what these appointed times were. So God gave the sun, the moon, and the stars for signs in the heavens, for appointed times, for days, and for years. Okay, so what about days? Days to live every day by, years to be transformed by every year. Okay, so this is what he told us, okay? In Leviticus 23:37, these are appointed times of Yehovah the Lord, which you shall proclaim as Mikra E Kodesh. Now I'm teaching you some Hebrew here today, okay? Another way of putting it, the Mikra Kodesh would be sacred assemblies or holy gatherings. Okay, and this is also says in there offerings made by fire. Okay, but we're not going to talk about the offerings right now. Okay, and it says everything is to be observed on its day, meaning that you don't observe it on whatever day you want. You observe it on the day of those appointed times. Okay, so there's a question to ask. If God created them, it was not for a religious observance. This is what we all need to think about. That God doesn't give us something for us to be religious over. Although the world seems to get religious over them. Okay? Whether it be Jewish people or Christians, or we get religious over certain holidays and certain days. Okay? If you actually take the word holiday, it actually comes from holy day. And the only holidays that are holy days are the appointed times. So the question is, if God created them, what did he create them for? These are for intimate encounters. Remember the story of Adam and how God met with him in the cool of the day in the morning? Well, think of it as a time where God has an appointment. Every one of these is appointments to meet with God. It's all supposed to be about encountering him, a relationship with the Lord, a spiritual relationship with the Lord. To walk in holiness and encounter God. Now, I would say that that's a pretty wonderful thing. Shouldn't we all have that excitement to encounter God on his appointed times? Actually, all the time, but also on his appointed times in a very special way. Now, these festivals, I am going to be talking about the fall festivals which are coming up. But you have to have some groundwork here. So this first program, and maybe the second one, we're going to lay some groundwork, okay? The appointed times are really just a part of a yearly cycle that God has, okay? 12 months, like the 12 tribes, like the 12 apostles, they govern us, okay? It's a governing body, the number 12 itself, okay? And so whether we choose to believe it or not, as believers in Yeshua, because I'm a Messianic rabbi, I believe in Jesus, Yeshua, as the Messiah. And I'll be referring to him as Yeshua. Okay, it's very important for us to understand that this is for us. You know what? The Gentiles, by believing in Yeshua, are grafted into the covenants. You're grafted into this. And whether you like it or not, all the festivals are about you, about your relationship with the Lord. And this is really important to understand. But it's not just the festivals, it's the months themselves. See, actually, I would go as far as to say that the months that we have on God's calendar, each preach to us, okay? And it connects us, and the festivals that happen on certain months, or the appointed times that happen on certain months, also they teach us about those months as well, okay? And that's our heritage. Okay, think of it as Messiah. See, he brought Israel out of Egypt, and they weren't really following God. He gave them the Sabbath, and the very first thing, we have to go to about this is when Moses, in Exodus 12, God changes the calendar. There was a calendar that started off in the month of Tishri, or Etanim, as it says in the Bible, it calls it Etanim, but it's also Tishri. It was the first month. And still, even today, we count from the beginning of the year, we count from Tishri, or Etanim, 1, that would be the new year. That's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah, the day of the awakening blast, or the day of the blast of the shofar. Okay? But there's another calendar, and both are valid. And actually, both include all these elements that regarding the blowing of the shofar and everything. In fact, every Sabbath, we blow the shofar before we start our service because that is a rehearsal. That's a good way of putting it. A gathering or rehearsal. Okay? It says in Hebrews I can't remember. It's like, I think it's Hebrews 8:25. I'm not sure if that's correct verse or not. They gather yourselves together all the more as you see the day approaching. Okay, the day of the Lord, and you're going to learn something about the day of the Lord in all this today as well. Okay, so we have the whole world is affected by God's calendar, whether they know it or not. Okay, it's a spiritual calendar. It is His calendar, and He revealed Himself to Israel, and He revealed the Sabbath, and He revealed the new moon, and He revealed these festivals. And as I was sharing, which I stopped, that in Exodus 12, God changed the calendars, and He said the seventh month at that time is now going to be the first month. Okay, the month of Aviv is as it's called. Okay, which means to spring forth. I know that we're used to our four seasons. Is it beginning with spring, summer, fall, winter? But there's actually, according to the Bible, according to Genesis, there's really only two seasons. After the flood, it says that there is going to be summer and winter. So those are the main two seasons. However, Aviv, you could say, it could mean springing forth into summer. Okay, and the fall, when you start seeing the leaves fall, you could say it's falling into the winter. Okay, so, but in reality, there's only two seasons. Okay, so it's really important to understand that. Okay, we are all in this cycle, whether we like it or not, because this is who God is. He's woven Himself into this calendar. It is who He is, as if He was opening up His robe to reveal who He is, and that is His appointed times and His festivals and this whole calendar, okay, which has to do with all of us as believers. Even our salvation is built around this. The salvation through Messiah Yeshua, through Jesus, our Messiah. Okay, so you got to wonder, okay, all this anti-Semitism going around in all the campuses and in many other places all over the world, and all happening after this horrible attack on Israel in October 7th of 2023. Okay, you got to wonder, why is the enemy so angry at Israel and the Jews? Okay, well, it's simple. They're carrying who God is. His nature, His times, His seasons. In fact, it says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 that day, he says, you, Thessalonians, you know the times and seasons, so that they will not overtake you as a thief. So it's really important to understand that God has His calendar, and we need to be aware of this calendar because it's going to keep us from being taken unaware. I'm having to shut my phone off here. I should have done it earlier. So we're going to get that done here. There we go. Anyhow, so getting back to this. So God changes the calendar, and He shows Moses and Aaron the new moon. And He says, this is the first moon of the year for you from now on. And it's the moon of Aviv. Remember, before it was Tishrei or Etanim, but now it's going to be Aviv. And what does the new moon mean? Well, suffice it to say that it's like every month the moon is born again. Okay? We get born again from the moon. Okay? So we have to understand these things. God gave us these things even within nature, even within space and the cosmos and around the earth, to teach us about His ways and teach us about Him. Okay, so the moon is born again. So at the born again moon, so what does that say? We have to be born again. And the very first thing He tells Israel, this is right before he pours out the final plague upon Egypt, the plague of the death of the firstborn. And He says, choose a lamb. Take a lamb for yourself, and let it live with you, and on the fourth day you were to slaughter it. It's the Passover lamb. Okay? Well, you to take the blood of that lamb when you slaughter it and put it on all the doorposts and the lintels, which is an overhang on the doors in ancient times. Okay, so that when he comes, Messiah, I should say Messiah, actually when God himself comes, he will pass over you when he sees the blood applied to your doorposts and to the lintel, the overhang on the door. Okay, but to those who didn't have that blood over their houses, that he would pass over them, and all the firstborn in those houses, or in each of those houses, the firstborn would die. Okay, and it's a picture of God's protection over us. It's the blood. His blood protects us. Okay, so it's really important to understand that we must be born again, and we must choose Messiah. Okay, and he becomes the Passover lamb for us, and his blood covers us. Okay, and then right after that, we would see that we are covered, and his judgment passes over us, and we don't die. Okay, this is what Messiah did for us at the cross. This is what he did for us, and he gave his life for us. He is the Passover lamb, and his blood covers us. So already, when you make a decision for the Lord and you choose him, you become born again into the kingdom. And you'll learn later that the Sabbath itself is symbolic of the kingdom. Every week when we celebrate the Sabbath, this is why we blow the shofar first. And that's a whole other thing. We'll talk more about it, like what Josh Bridges blew the shofar. Okay? And you'll understand a little bit more about it in these coming programs, or these programs. So I wanted to, before I go on, I want to share something about Israel. I was just sharing a little bit about Israel. Because Israel has, for the most part, stood with God, okay? But you know what? They're not believers. Many of them are not believers in Yeshua. But there are many Jews like myself who believe in Yeshua, okay, in Jesus as the Messiah. There's a lot of people rising up and saying, well, what about this entity over there? Is that really Israel? You know what? After what they've been through with the Holocaust and everything, and where they come from, they are Israel. This is a miracle that God has done, okay? And there's more miracles to talk about in Israel becoming a state and a nation, okay? And it's really important to understand there's a great danger to any believer that chooses to replace Israel, okay? As it says in Romans 11, I say then, has God cast away his people? Certainly not. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, or Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. God has not cast away his people whom he foreknew. Even so then, at this present time, there is a remnant according to the election of grace. And if by grace, it is no longer by works, otherwise grace is no longer grace. But if it is by works, it is no longer grace, otherwise work is no longer work. What then? Israel has not obtained what it seeks, but the elect have obtained it. And the rest were blinded, and just as it is written, God has given them a spirit of stupor, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear to this very day. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Certainly not. But through their fall, to provoke them to jealousy, salvation has come to the Gentiles. But if their fall be riches for the world, and their failure be riches for the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am an apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify my ministry. For if by any means I may provoke to jealousy those who are of my flesh, and save some of them. For if their being castaways of reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead, the resurrection of the dead? For if the first fruit is holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root is holy, so are the branches. And because the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them became a partaker of the root and the fatness of the olive tree. Do not boast against the branches. For if you boast, remember, you do not support the root, but the root supports you. You will say that branches were broken off that I may be grafted in. Well said. Because of unbelief they were broken off, but you stand by faith. Do not be haughty, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, he may not spare you either. It's really important to understand. There's going to come a salvation of the entire nation of Israel. And we need to understand that God has even though Israel doesn't believe in the Messiah, he said in multiple scriptures that they would return. They would come back to the land, and they wouldn't be saved right away. But then later he would give them a heart of flesh to replace a heart of stone. Okay, that there's going to be a salvation that comes to all of Israel. And it's also included in the festivals, that understanding of what that salvation is. It's the same salvation as all of us through Messiah. But when they see him come, okay, it's really important to understand this. And you know what? If we really want to get a proper understanding of Israel, the Israel that's over there in the Middle East, the beloved Israel whom God loves, that place is where his kingdom is going to be, and Israel's going to be there, and they're all going to be in love with Yeshua. Okay, so it's really important to understand God's purpose for Israel and for the Jewish people, even if they today are not walking the way they should. Okay, it's really important to understand this. Okay, in fact, there's a really good video by Jonathan Cahn. If you go to Jonathan Cahn Official, not all these other sites, Jonathan Cahn Official on YouTube, there's a video called The Truth About the Jews and Tucker Carlson. I'm not going to talk about Tucker Carlson, okay? He's wayward like many believers are, okay? So just check out that video. That'll clear everything up, okay? And I'm not going to go into anything more about that, except you need to understand that God has a promise to Abraham, and he also has a promise in Numbers 24, 5-9, that was spoken through Balaam, okay, where he says, blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you. And he was talking about Israel. When he talked to Abraham, he was talking about Abraham and his seed. But there's also a blessing for Israel. Remember, Israel is God's first bride. Yes, God has two brides. Oh, I probably said something that's going to offend somebody there. Okay, but one day, when all of Israel believes in Messiah, they are going to become one with all the bride of Messiah. All those who believe are part of the bride of Messiah. But there's a bride right now that is his first bride. And according to the scriptures, he takes care of food, clothing, and intimacy with his first bride as much as his second. Okay, there's a whole lot about that. God's blessings, according to Romans 11:29, are irrevocable. His blessings upon Israel. Okay, and you could also see in Exodus 21:10, and in context, when you read it in context, in Deuteronomy 21:15-17. Okay, so remember, God loves Israel. Okay, and now, while I have a few minutes left of this first program, okay, I want to tell you, if you want to read more about this in detail, please, I wrote a book about 2.5 years ago. It came out. Okay, it's called A Revelation of God's Calendar, Prophetic Spiritual Guidebook. And this will help you understand everything I'm going to be sharing in these 4 weeks, okay? It's just type it into anywhere, to Google, to YouTube, well, maybe not YouTube, but to Google, to Walmart.com, Amazon.com. You can get this book, okay? And you can order it directly from me. I will only charge you $18 for it. The others might charge you a little bit more. And if you want, contact me at Kol HaRuach, which is KOLHARUACH @gmail.com. If you want to get a copy of the book, of course, you will have to come and pick it up from my house, okay? But I will give you information about that. Or you can just order it online, okay? And there's also a PDF online, okay? So also, it's really, we're going to get more into this as time goes on. We're going to understand things like, be on the alert, be on the watch, for you do not know what day your Lord's coming. Actually, it's been very misunderstood. We know exactly when the Lord's coming. We know the exact day. Now, we might not know the year, but we know the exact day, okay? And he's going to come on a Rosh Hashanah, a Yom Teruah, okay? So get ready. I mean, right now, it's a time of preparation, okay? We're going to see some things happen, okay? And you're going to see prophets getting words and saying, oh, the rapture's coming and the Lord's coming, and we need to get ready because it's this year. You know why? Because he's putting that in the hearts of believers, because we are rehearsing the coming of the physical kingdom. We are rehearsing the coming of the Lord. That doesn't mean it's going to happen this year, and the prophets out there and the people out there with their YouTube videos and the Rumble videos are not wrong. They're just rehearsing. And God's doing this, okay, to get us ready. He is coming for a bride that is ready. He's not coming for a bride that wants to play religion and wants to compromise with the world. He's looking for passionate people, okay? And you know what? I've been through a lot, and my passion has not dwindled. Although sometimes I wonder if I don't feel everything, but we don't go by our feelings. If I don't feel His presence, you know what? I want to be in His presence. Everything about the ways of God is encountering Him, and it's time for us to encounter Him. Okay, so Noah encountered Him. Abraham encountered Him. Okay, and my hope, and I hope that you have an encounter with Him if you haven't already, okay? Because this is what's going to help us. This is what's going to keep us in a relationship, like a deep, intimate relationship with Him. It's very important. This is the only thing that it's going to get us through the coming days, because the days that are coming are going to be quite difficult. But we're going to be okay because we're trusting in the Lord, okay? And we're trusting on Him. It's impossible to please Him without faith. So keep trusting, keep your eyes on Him. Don't be distracted, don't be worried, don't be, the end is not yet. I know it's coming soon, but remember, soon could be like, a day is just 1,000 years. I'm not saying it's 1,000 years, but you need to prepare your hearts right now. The shofar is blowing, okay? And the season of repentance is upon us, but the season of God's comfort. Pray for Israel. Pray for the Jews in the nations. Okay, this is a time that we're going to see also a great salvation break forth upon Israel. So there's a good reason to be excited during this time, during these days. And I'll give you the Aaronic benediction for this program. Yivarechecha Yehovah v'yishmarecha, Ya'er Yehovah panav elecha v'yichunecha, Yisa Yehovah panav elecha, V'yasem lecha shalom. Blessed are like, I'm out of time to tell you in English. You'll have to wait for the next episode. Shalom.